Good evening. We begin tonight's broadcast with breaking developments in the Gulf. Iran has launched a missile attack on a U.S. military base in Qatar, marking a dramatic escalation in already simmering tensions across the Middle East. The attack, which took place less than 24 hours ago, targeted Al-Udeid Air Base, the largest U.S. military installation in the region and a strategic hub for air operations across the Middle East. Eyewitnesses in the capital, Doha, reported hearing loud bangs overhead, as defense systems lit up the sky intercepting incoming threats. According to Iranian state media, the missile strike was retaliation for U.S. air raids on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities over the weekend. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iran's most elite military wing, issued a bold statement, calling U.S. bases in the region vulnerabilities, not strengths, and vowing to respond to any threat against its sovereignty. Missile count disputed. Iran claims 6 missiles, U.S. reports 14, Qatar says 19, all intercepted. Despite the scale of the attack, no casualties have been reported. Officials confirm that all missiles were successfully intercepted by Qatar's air defense systems. But the political fallout is far from over. In the hours leading up to the attack, both the US and UK advised their citizens in Qatar to shelter in place, with Qatar temporarily closing its airspace. Flight radar data showed over 100 flights diverting away from Doha before missiles were launched. Following the attack, former US President Donald Trump thanked Iran for what he called early notice, adding that no American lives were lost and downplaying the severity by calling the strike very weak. However, Qatar's foreign ministry called the missile launch a flagrant violation of its sovereignty. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, stood firm, insisting Iran did not aim to harm but would not tolerate violation from any power. The situation began spiraling over the weekend when the United States launched major airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites, in support of Israel's continued operations against Tehran. Israel, for its part, claims these actions are necessary to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Iran insists its nuclear program is purely civilian, but tensions have now exploded into direct military exchanges involving 3 major powers. Tonight, as airspace closures ripple across the Gulf and regional forces remain on high alert, the world watches, holding its breath, for what may come next. Diplomatic efforts are urgently needed to halt the slide into wider conflict. We'll continue to bring you updates as this high-stakes standoff unfolds. In another update, a potential breakthrough in the escalating Middle East conflict. After nearly 2 weeks of airstrikes, missile attacks, and heightened global tension, the United States says a ceasefire between Iran and Israel may now be within reach. U.S. President Donald Trump, after launching controversial airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend, is now touting what he calls a diplomatic win. Speaking Monday evening, he announced that both Iran and Israel had agreed to halt attacks, raising hopes that the so-called 12-day war might finally be coming to an end. In this image released by the White House, President Trump is seen monitoring the mission that took out 3 of Iran's nuclear enrichment sites, an aggressive strike that triggered retaliatory missile launches from Tehran. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi issued a stern condition that Israel must halt its operations by 4 a.m. Tehran time. And as the clock passed that hour, Israeli strikes reportedly ceased, marking the first signs of calm after nearly 2 weeks of violent exchange. Earlier Monday, Iran had fired a wave of missiles at Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar, home to thousands of U.S. troops. But all missiles were intercepted, and no casualties were reported. President Trump later downplayed the attack, calling it a very weak response to what he described as the obliteration of Iran's nuclear facilities. Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region. President Donald Trump, social media post. While the skies over Qatar lit up with missile intercepts, diplomatic activity was heating up behind the scenes. The White House confirms President Trump held calls with Qatari mediators and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, pushing hard for a ceasefire deal. Experts say Trump's decision to strike was a high-risk gamble, one with echoes of 2020, when the U.S. killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, triggering retaliation but avoiding further escalation. This time, Iran signaled its response would be proportional, even providing advance warning to Qatari officials before the missile launch, a move President Trump said he appreciated. While attention shifted to diplomacy, Trump's focus also included the price of oil and global media reaction. A controversial comment by former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, suggesting foreign nuclear support for Iran, added fuel to the debate, though it was quickly dismissed by U.S. officials. As of this hour, the ceasefire appears to be holding. But the situation remains fragile. Analysts warn that any renewed aggression, especially with casualties, could reignite the conflict instantly. For now, President Trump is claiming a win. But with so much at stake and diplomacy still in motion, the world watches, cautiously optimistic, that peace might finally find a foothold in one of the world's most volatile regions. This is No Apocalyptic News, delivering global news with clarity and context. Stay tuned for continued coverage.